It was some kind of abandoned building. The first hero destroyed a huge rat. It didn't take much time. Next, a giant praying mantis appeared in Yu Ilhan's path. The last monster was a giant black bird. The young man couldn't understand why he was still at level 24 after killing 3 monsters. A display appeared in front of the guy's face. "Why did I only go up to the first level?" Erda replied, "Because those monsters are weaker than the dreadful wolf and brown bear you defeated earlier. Your unique profession requires a lot of experience. If you were an ordinary person, you'd be at least level 30 right now. In what city can this blurry face be strong?" Ilhan decided not to be discouraged, for he managed to find many valuable items, which he sold to an interested army. The guy couldn't believe his own happiness. He now had 1 billion in cash. It was like a fairy tale dream. He could do whatever he wanted with that kind of money. Maybe he should look into real estate. Erda disagreed. "You shouldn't be so foolish with a lot of money. What would you do if you were tracked down? This kind of spending is just like shouting around that Sungbolt is Yu Ilhan. So, just this once, as a special bonus, I will erase the memory of the people involved. That's exactly how it will end," the Sky Woman promised. The hero clapped his hands together. "Angel magic is the best ever. Thank you. You've helped me a lot." The next morning came very quickly. The guy woke up in his own bed. Opening his eyes, Ilhan immediately activated the system to look at his vitals. He immediately received a message that said, "Communication with the other world has been restored. From now on, you can physically appear in the other world you were summoned to and perform tasks for appropriate rewards." At this suddenness, the young man's hands began to shake. The world I was called to. The hero had time to get upset. He decided that he would remain invisible again. The young man didn't want to be alone with himself again. He showed the monitor to Angel and irritably asked what it was. "The monsters on Earth have gotten much stronger. It was necessary to come up with some way to deal with this problem," Celestia replied. Barely containing his own emotions, Ilhan inquired, "Have you decided to send people to another world where they can safely gain experience?" Erti's answer was in the affirmative. The hero couldn't hold back any longer. He shouted, "Then what about me? Other people go to another world, but what about me? The celestial woman put her hand out in front of her and said, "You've always been alone. So what's different now?" The hero clutched his head in despair. "But still, Mom will definitely be asking me why I don't go to the other world." "Answer her that there's nothing to learn there, so there's no point in you going there," the angel advised. Celestial added, she feels very sorry regarding the guy's situation. "There's nothing I can do. I'm not the one choosing this fate for you," Erta added sadly. The young man calmed down a bit and replied, "That's right. I guess I can't go to another world after all." But suddenly, he heard these words, "It's not that impossible. If you become a supreme creature, you will have the opportunity to do it. If you, Yu Ilhan, become the highest creature, you will be able to enter not only another world, but even heaven. Then you'll be on the same level as us angels," Erta explained. The hero was shocked by such news because if he became a supreme creature, he would be able to see Lita again. The celestial thought irritably, "It's like they're lovers separated by distance." Hertha's mind was swarming with thoughts. She had a definite idea. Only now did she realize that she was playing the role of mediator between these two lovers. Earthy disliked it very much, for she herself had no object of affection. The celestial exclaimed, "Train even more concentratedly to become a supreme creature, and then you will be able to enter another world and meet your beloved again." The hero inquired, "How long will it take?" and got the answer that it should be less than 1,000 years. Ilhan breathed a sigh of relief. Such news pleased him. When the young man entered the kitchen to eat breakfast with his parents, he heard the breaking news. The TV presenter was telling us that martial law had been imposed all over the country today. Such news stunned the hero. His quiet struggle with the monsters was over. The young man's mother said, "Martial law has been declared not only in our country, but all over the world. It seems that because of the monsters, the world government had no other choice. All schools and businesses have closed, and meanwhile the army is planning to destroy all the monsters. People are forbidden to go outside," the young man thought as he sipped his morning tea. Even the government has admitted that it won't be possible to live like before. The hero decides it's a good time for him to talk to his parents. Ilhan asked his mom and dad to go to another world. They would be safe there. The woman decided to talk to her son, to explain to him that this was not the best way out. But her husband managed to beat her to it. "What's the point? I was there for 10 years, but I couldn't even make it to 2nd grade. The young man objected, "But the monsters will keep coming. We need to get stronger. At least it'll be safer than Earth for now." The father decided not to argue with his son. He replied, "I understand. If that's the way you feel, I'll leave. Don't give up trying to manage the property and practice faithfully." The mom, on the other hand, disagreed. The woman wasn't ready to let her son go just like that. "I think a little differently than your father. I'll be happy for you to try, but it pays not to overdo it. The hero tried to change the subject by saying that today's breakfast was delicious. Suddenly, his mother's words made the young man freeze in place. It's you, the masked hunter. Ilhan was shocked at how his mom found out about it. How can a mother not recognize her own child? I was so surprised when I saw you on TV. I guessed at first sight that it was you, despite the mask and different clothes. The woman explained. Mama Penguin always knows where her penguin baby is. Only now the youngster realized what a unique skill his mother had. The young man couldn't contain his emotions. He shared with the woman that she was ignored by the world. The woman said, I don't know how you became so strong, but I am very worried about you. Be careful, we always make the right decisions. I think you realize how scary monsters are? The hero did not have time to answer, but his mother added that people are much scarier than monsters. It should not be forgotten that there are much more evil people, so you should beware of them. Ilhan smiled. He was glad to have this conversation with his mom. The woman said, I am pleased that you have such a good appetite this morning. I have to go now. Don't do any dangerous things. The boy waved to his mom and told her to take care. As the woman disappeared into another dimension, the hero looked around the empty kitchen. His eyes stopped at the sink full of dirty dishes. He remembered that Lita had always done the dishes before. The boy put on rubber gloves and took up the dirty plates himself. He thought, my parents went to another world to gain experience. Although I can't go after them, I have other things to do. Suddenly the hero's thoughts were interrupted by Erta. I'm going to heaven for a while to pick up the reward for the task. The young man asked the angel to grab some ice cream on the way back. The celestial flew away, surprised by her ward's request. The young man watched her from the window. He was pleased with the kami that he was all alone for a while. Last night, Ilhan bought a small space with cash where his workshop will now be. He didn't have the tools and proper equipment yet, but he already wanted to try something. After all, without processing, the skin and bones would quickly deteriorate. The hero wanted to use metal, but due to the lack of proper materials, he would have to improvise. He decided what he had now should be enough to handle the bones. Ilhan thought, but it seems that processing leather and other materials takes too long. At this rate, I don't know when I'll be able to complete the outfit. The hero was brought out of his reverie by Eartha's voice. You can get by with magic. The young man smiled and asked why the angel had returned so quickly and if she had bought ice cream. But when the guy saw the face of the celestial woman, his smile disappeared. Now Erta had become human-sized. She was coming straight at the hero. Angel folded her arms across her chest. She looked annoyed. The hero shouted, You also know how to use gigantism magic. The celestial replied, What do you take me for? I've been using miniaturization magic all this time. Okay, let's forget it. Hold out your hand to receive your reward, Erta said. The guy wiped his dirty hand on his sweater. He was a little dazed. As the young man's hand shook the angel's hand, a thought flashed through his mind. Eartha's hand is cold, but very gentle. At the same instant, the young man received a message. The task 001 that the heavens had given was completed. All of the hero's characteristics were increased by 1. He was the best at completing the task and received an additional reward. The name of this bonus is Eternal Flame. The guy wanted an explanation from the angel what it was. Erta smiled slyly and remained silent. She decided to pull a pause, and the next moment she pointed with her hand where the hero should look. The young man exclaimed, When that fire broke out in the fireplace, I didn't light it. The angel explained, The eternal flame. It is a living flame that never dies out and is constantly growing. It is the precious flame of heaven. The young man rejoiced. A flame that never dies out. That's just what he needs, Erta replied. I knew it, especially Lita emphasized it. Celestia remembered how her friend had begged her to bring down a bunch of gifts for Ilhan. She had replied at the time, It's too much. What am I to you, a loader? In heaven, Leda worries too much about you, Erta muttered. The boy was amazed that Leda had actually sent all of this. Meanwhile, an annoyed Erta was very jealous of the two of them. She even muttered that couples should go to hell. Meanwhile, the young man paid no attention to her. He was looking at the gifts from heaven and thinking, Leda really understands what he needs. Earthy was hurt to hear about it, but she decided not to broach the subject. I also have good news for you. Heaven has given you a second assignment since you can't move to another world, the celestial woman informed. Angel finally revealed the secret of this assignment. From now on, you must create dungeons on Earth. The young man was silent. He was dumbfounded by this suggestion. There were more questions than answers in my mind. Create a dungeon? Who? Me? Why? How? Finally, Ilhan was able to utter, Yeah, dungeon sounds fun, but I'm sorry, I don't think I can do it. But I know how to make ramen. Will you have some? These words from the hero only made the angel angrier. Erta held up a finger and said, This is an order from heaven. You have been given a task. You are to help create dungeons. The young man thought for a moment, trying to decide on which side to approach this task. The next moment the hero shouted, "It's not for me, it's for you. Stop deceiving me." The celestial woman replied, "Since it is for the earth, it means it is for you too. The heavens told me to wait only 10 years, but in the end, those 10 years stretched into 1,000 years. They said that at the beginning of the great cataclysm, the monsters would be weak, but that also turned out to be a lie. And afterward, they claimed that the monsters in the dungeons should help me grow, but they were useless. What was even going according to plan?" The hero didn't control himself with rage. The young man didn't understand the point of making him believe their words. Erda decided she could explain something. When God stopped time on Earth, this situation affected all living things. Animals, birds, and fish were able to develop immunity against this power. Eventually, the dungeons began to work differently than they should. The hero still did not calm down. He exclaimed angrily, "That's your entire explanation for what happened here?" Erda was beginning to lose her angelic patience. The boy wondered why she was so sure about this. "For thousands of years, you have been perfecting your skills. Especially your blacksmithing abilities have reached a divine level. The only being besides us who can build a dungeon is you." Ilhan didn't want to believe it was even possible. He didn't want any part of it. But suddenly it came to him. Erda had just praised him a lot. The hero decided that this behavior of his was rather suspicious. "You just said that to put a huge amount of work on my shoulders." The guy accused the angel of being devious. The Celestine replied, "It's a win-win for both us and you. We do our bidding, and you get rewards for completing your tasks. The young man wants to know what will happen if he refuses." Angel replied that in that case the monsters would not come to the dungeon. Because of this, humanity will have to live in a wilderness environment. Erta showed the blueprints and materials. She explained that heaven was willing to provide any help he needed. Harkonom, Pekanam, and Elhadra are the 3 materials used by the higher creatures. They are not on Earth yet. The hero was stunned that the gems were so big. He had never seen anything like this before. Hidden in the next gift were some brand new tools. The guy's mood changed completely. He was excited about the highest quality equipment. Ilhan asked if he could really use it. The Celestial replied, "We loaned them to you for a while. You'll return them when you're done." The hero did not like this turn of events. The hero didn't understand how a dungeon could be built using something like this. Wouldn't it be better for him to start tearing down the ground? Erda stretched her arm forward and objected to the boy's last words. "The only thing you'll have to do is create magical tools to attract the attention of monsters. This changes the nearby terrain and creates a dungeon," Celestia explained. "Based on this blueprint, you should perfect a destructive trap," Erda added. Angel understood that this was not light labor. After being silent for a bit longer, the hero finally said, "Already looking at it, I can tell it's going to be very difficult." The next moment the young man smiled and added to the calm that they had better get busy preparing the reward. Erta said, "You, Ilhan, I will prepare such a reward that will blow your mind." The hero decided not to postpone the matter in a long box and immediately began the task. The first magic stone that Erta presented to him flew into the fire. "With a little power of the eternal flame, you can put magic stones in it," sounded in the guy's head. The guy took the next jewel with his special claws and held it up to the fire. In the next moment, something incredible happened. The right reaction occurred. Having heated up the stones, the hero took them out and started working with a sledgehammer. It was very hot by the fire, with drops of sweat running down his face and arms. Erta watched the hero's actions with a stunned look. The thought arose in her mind, "Have I made a mistake? If Yu Ilhan wasn't a spearman, I would recommend him to become a blacksmith. This young man is skilled at creating weapons that can challenge even God." A little later, a relieved exhalation from the guy was heard. The uniform was completely ready. The guy was worried. He wasn't sure it would work out the way it should. Erta said, "If it doesn't work, it can be melted down and tried again. It will take a very long time." The hero chose not to comment on her words. He took even more focus to his work. The young man looked really focused. He didn't take his eyes off his hands. The Celestine, as if mesmerized, watched Ilhan's work intently. A little later, the angel realized something. She remembered Lita and her friends' stories of her and her boyfriend's time on Earth. Only now did Erta realize how the angel had felt then. In the last 1,000 years, Lita has personally observed this. "I wondered how Lita, being a higher angel, became interested in an ordinary human," Celestia pondered. The only thing Erta wanted to understand was what controlled her friend's heart, and nothing else. Suddenly she flinched at a loud sound, the hero noisily placing his instrument on the table. Ilhan yawned and said he was finally done. Erta couldn't believe her own ears. Angel doesn't understand how such a difficult task could be finished so quickly. At the same instant, the guy received a message. "You have awakened a top-level blacksmith. You have earned the title of Legendary Creator. The efficiency of all productive activities has increased by 20%. Erta was amazed, for it seemed to her that very little time had passed. She asked the hero in surprise. Already finished? The young man irritably replied, What do you mean already? It's been 5 whole hours. The Celestial thought, Have I lost track of time and watched him work for 5 hours straight? But really, for this kind of work, that time is fast. Did he really do everything exactly according to the blueprint? Ilhan threw his choice right into the angel's hands, let her check it out for herself. The beauty was spinning the little cube in her hands. It was unrivaled. She shifted her gaze to the guy, still not fully believing her own eyes. Erda thought the man could not have done such a thing, though she herself had watched him work. Blushing and turning away, the angel replied, It meets certain standards. The Celestial's rather dry words pleased the boy anyway. After a bit of silence, Erda said, It's time to use the craft mana. Yes, I'll get the other angels to help. Wait a bit. The hero had already managed to betray, for he had hoped that the mentor would call Lita. But she disappointed him. Some more time passed. Erda again excommunicated herself to the sky, and when she returned, there was a magical glow overhead. Ilhan assumed it was a fluorescent light above the angel's head that he had seen in his youth. Celestia said irritably that it was an angel's halo. It looked like a hoop, glowing with a gentle golden glow. When Erta found herself in the sky, her co-workers couldn't believe her story was true. How could a human being create a destructive trap? The young man finished faster than one would expect. The smell doesn't smell like heaven at all. It was definitely made by a person on Earth. The hero thought, Angels are all so beautiful. I didn't notice it when Erta was small in size. But now that she's as tall as a human, I can see how beautiful she is. The Celestial clapped her hands and motioned for the boy to speed up. They don't have any time at all. They need to get to the craft mana as soon as possible. You, Ilhan, you just need to focus on wanting to complete the destructive trap. The other angels, who had come down to Earth with Erta this time, were going to do the rest on their own. All 3 of them, they touched the hero. Real magic began to happen. A powerful magical golden energy emerged from this interaction. Suddenly the hero screamed. The young man felt a force pressing down on him. It was an incredible pressure, as if mana was pressing down on him from all sides. Only now did the boy realize the power of the higher powers. One of the angels smiled and asked, Can't take it? But Yu Ilhan was confident that he would pull through. He forced himself to focus on the devastating trap he'd made. That it attracts monsters, beckons them, so that the monsters go in and can't come out again. It is the most magical thing for animals that have survived thousands of years of loneliness. Suddenly the young man opened his eyes. It occurred to him, we must find a way to soothe the loneliness of these unfortunates. The pressure of the angels on the hero's body continued, but he was already much easier to bear this divine energy. One of the angels thought, He is strong for an inferior being. Usually people faint when they meet an angel. This guy has a special self-awareness. Suddenly another celestial exclaimed, If I am not mistaken, we will be knocked down. I will not allow my pride to be struck. The newcomer angel said, It's really amazing. How could such an interesting person be born? From the street, you could see how brightly the building shone from within. The hero received a message. You have completed Earth Compact Destructive Trap. Mana crafting has been upgraded to level 7, and the quality of the completed artifact has improved. Ilhan raised his head to the ceiling. He couldn't believe his own eyes that he had done it. The angel with long blonde hair gritted his teeth. He didn't want to believe this guy had gotten it right the first time. The green-haired celestial said, I thought he'd spend at least 10 tries. But this guy even has alpha and beta options, Erda told the blacksmith. They are talking about the extra options attached to the result of crafting mana. These definitions of earthy and compact, they appear randomly depending on luck, the object, and the ability of the craftsman. It is not every day that you can see both alpha and beta in the first work. One of the angels clapped the hero on the shoulder and said, You are an impressive man. And the celestial added that it was about time to set up the dungeon. Erda offered Ilhan to go along with them if he was interested in watching. The young man was pleased with the offer and gladly accepted. When their company was in the streets, the angels saw many destroyed buildings. The celestials moved through the air thanks to their own wings. They carried the hero with them as well. Ilhan said, It looks quite like the apocalypse, the end of the world. One of the angels asked Eartha, Don't we need to use invisibility on this man? The celestial replied that it was fine. As long as the hero didn't attack first, he definitely wouldn't be seen. The higher being saw to it that the monsters in the streets of the city really didn't react to the young man. One of the angels exclaimed, Of course, it's you, Ilhan, who is overlooked by God himself. The hero thought irritably, Do they take me for a monkey in a zoo? Let's see if I'll talk to you after the next mission. At last the mountains that towered over the city appeared ahead. The Celestials reached the place where they planned to make a dungeon. It was an abandoned piece of vacant land. Erda, who had been holding the trap in her hand the whole time, tossed it up. The object the hero had just created hovered in the air on its own and began to glow. And the next moment he just disappeared. Ilhan couldn't figure out where he'd gone. One of the Celestials was pleased that everything was going very smoothly. The hero, on the other hand, looked confused or even scared. Meanwhile, somewhere in the streets of the city, military personnel with guns in their hands also looked confused. The people noticed that the giant rat they were hunting began to behave strangely. It stopped destroying everything around it, as if distracted by something. Huge ants from the side of the other military team started moving in the direction the rat was looking. People raised their heads to the sky, all of it darkened by the wings of huge birds. All these mutated creatures that had been making a mess of the streets were now obediently walking into the trap the hero had created. Angel said, "I hate to admit it, but Ilhan has a great talent for creating traps." Erda said that all the other dungeons had also activated. The young man asked confusedly, "The other dungeons? But you said they were unusable." The Celestial explained that it was a pity to throw them away, so in other destructive traps, they used magic to change the energy of the dungeon to earth energy. Now the boy understood why Harcanum was in short supply. Recycling was the first step to an eco-friendly environment. The angel who came down to Earth today said with a smile, "You two are so close." These words were addressed to Erdi and Ilhan, but they disagreed. Suddenly, the hero's attention was drawn to what was happening among the monsters. Despite the fact that animals have lived on Earth for 1,000 years, the result is that they just obediently head into the destructive trap as God and the angels wanted them to. Divine power is absolute. God can send all of humanity to another world in an instant, and monsters are helpless before his almighty power. After all, humanity also dances in the palm of the supreme ruler's hand. The fact that Ilkan was left alone for 1,000 years was explained only by one word: mistake. These thoughts in the young man's mind only frustrated him. Suddenly, the hero felt his back touched by someone's palm. He looked around and couldn't tell if this was really happening or if his eyesight was failing him. The young man realized if Lita hadn't been around then, he would have lost his mind in 1,000 years of loneliness. But now she's not around, so the guy needs to get stronger so that no one and nothing can control him. Ilhan firmly decided for himself that he would become stronger for the sake of his own will. A little later, he was sitting at home, eating Given's sandwich and listening to the news. There are reports that the cause of Seoul's sudden monster movements last night was due to the activation of dungeons that were located in different places in the city. The young man washing dishes listened. Dungeons have appeared not only in Seoul, but all over Korea, Japan, and even parts of China. Reporter Odegi, please give us the details. The boy thought about when Mom and Dad would already be back. He felt a little sad. He couldn't even imagine how these two could be, but after they have a lot of experience living in society, they probably survive in another world somehow. Erta said, "The dungeons seem to be functioning properly. Great job, Ilhan." The hero inquired, "I thought you said I had 27 more to make. Then why did the angels leave? I could start working right now." The Celestine replied, "It takes a large amount of mana to create a destructive trap. Angels need a few days to regain their strength." The young man said that they were not the only angels, and remembered that there was also Lita. He longed to see her at least one more time. Erta replied with a smile, "Not all angels have a lot of free time. For your convenience, Lita is taking extra work. It's making it hard on her. She won't be able to appear on Earth for a while." The hero thought disappointedly that in that case Lita really couldn't make it. Ilhan decided to distract himself and suggested that the celestial woman go to the workshop and start working on the base. Erda thought disappointedly that the young man was indeed fully immersed in his work. When the two were outside, the young man said, "I've been thinking, why did you get bigger when we were creating the dungeon and now you're small again?" The beauty explained, "As an angel, I have other tasks to perform. This is the perfect size to be your helper." Over these conversations, they reached the workshop. The young man decided to make some more traps for the next day. Meanwhile, Erta was looking with interest at the loot that Ilhan had gotten from past fights with monsters. She turned to the guy. "Since your result yesterday was above reproach, I'll give you a small gift. After this, you will hardly have time to create new traps." The guy scratched the back of his head and asked, "What, you want to give me more Hankanyum?" But the angel advised him not to dream. The next moment, something began to happen to the bearskin that was lying on the table. Erda explained that as performing the drying and sterilization of the monster skin he got on the hunt, it will be completed in 1 second. The hero was pleased with the result. The job was done perfectly. Angelic magic at its best. The celestial woman asked with a smile, "So, you've already got a job, right?" Ilhan was happy to explain that he could make gloves and boots out of it. He got right down to business. The fire in the fireplace was burning merrily, and on the workbench was spread leather, from which the young man was cutting out parts for future crafts. The first to be created were the leather gauntlets of the Terrible Wolf, a rare class with 600-point armor and 700-point attack power. The Terrible Wolf boots were created next, also a rare class, with 550-point armor and 750-point attack power. The hero was pleased with his creations. They also had an airing option. Still, it would be problematic if he had trouble moving because the boots were hot. Erda asked the guy when he had time to learn the fortification techniques. Ilhan replied, "I told you. You have to know a lot of things to do hard work." The hero decided that he would make armor out of the bear's skin. Erda hesitated, watching the young man's actions. A sly smile appeared on her face. The sun over the skillful hero was already heading towards the horizon. Evening would soon come. The Celestial yawned and said, "It's been a full day already." She offered the guy a rest, but the young man did not react. The work absorbed all his attention. A little later, Ilhan said, "Just a little longer and I'll be done. I'm not tired at all." Erda said, "I guess a sleepless night won't affect your superhuman stamina in any way." But no sooner had she finished her sentence than the hero announced that everything was ready. The tough bear leather armor had a unique grade, 2100-point armor, 850 strength. The boiled leather made by a master who had reached the highest level, made from the hide of a huge second-ranked brown bear, is the best in its class. It can even withstand the bite of a high-ranked monster. Erda was stunned by the piece. The young man explained that the finishing touches were left. His hand reached for the claws and bones. This way he was going to further strengthen the armor. The guy thrust his arms forward and all the strength from the remains of the bear transferred to the armor. Thus the hero was able to increase the characteristics of his armor, made from the skin of a giant brown bear. Ilhan received a message that mana crafting had risen to level 8. The young man told the angel that this armor had hidden functions. Erda replied, "I understand what it's made of based on its name." The Celestial reached forward and hidden spikes emerged from her armor for a counterattack. The hero smiled and explained, "She acts like a hedgehog that can make even a tiger run away." Erda remembered that the armband the young man had created last time had concealed a mantis blade. She wondered why the young man was hiding sharp spikes in his armor. The hero was silent, and a little later he spoke cryptically. "So that's what you're interested in?" The Celestial woman's mind flashed. It was a random question, but the atmosphere is frightening. Then she inquired, "Do you have a special reason for that?" Erda wanted to know, "Perhaps the hedgehog hurt your parents, or was it all about a man's dream?" Ilhan exclaimed irritably, "You know my parents are fine." Their elevated conversation continued. Such a deep meaning," Angel shouted angrily. "What kind of nonsense is this? I was listening to all this with a serious face." Anyway, it seems this time around there are alpha and beta options here. Everyone might start to think that anything you create with mana crafting is bound to have options in it. The Celestial added in a calmer tone already. The hero replied, "There are still bones left. I will make a knife from them to process. It's hard to process monster carcasses with a spear." The young man wasted no time and got right down to business. Very quickly, another work of art from Master Ilhan was ready. A knife made of bear bone, a rare class weapon with an attack level of 500 points and a durability of 450. Next, a mask in the shape of the skull of a dire wolf was created. Its armor reached 600 points and durability 660. This mask was made from the bone of a wolf. This monster had a lot of mana when it was alive, Erda inquired in surprise. "Made another mask?" The young man replied, "Yes, there were a couple extra materials left over." Ilhan fully put on his equipment. He thought he looked pretty cool. The hero walked over and looked in the mirror. He said, addressing the Celestial woman, "I look good hiding my face." Erda screamed, "What have you done to your mask? Your presence has become even weaker. This is unbelievable!" The young man claimed he hadn't done anything to her, if the angel herself didn't realize that. Suddenly they heard something strange. "What's that sound? Is there something going on outside?" Ilhan asked Eartha. The angel replied, "It sounds like someone is fighting a monster right now." The hero took off his mask. He looked shocked at what he had heard. The battle was taking place in the Chono area, where a huge Class 2 monster had appeared. The people who were currently in the building were advised to flee to another world right now. Erda gave a surprised hum. "A monster that isn't locked in a dungeon." Ilhan exclaimed, "Oh no, please be weaker than a huge brown bear." Angel asked the hero, "You're not afraid to fight now, are you? It's not like you." The young man replied that it wasn't that. "If he's stronger than that bear, I'll have to skin him and make new armor. The process of processing a monster's body scares me more than a fight," Ilhan explained. The hero pulled out his old spear and examined it closely. He explained to the Celestial that the weapon needed to be repaired before rushing into battle with it. The deadly sharp steel spear had a unique class with an attack power of 1100 points and a durability of 715. The option it possessed was an increased critical strike probability of 20%. It was a true miracle that the guy had created without using mana. The guy was satisfied. He had just fixed his spear, and his attack power had already increased by 300 points. Yu Ilhan wanted to refine